Hello, everybody. Let me get this on straight. Fox Van D here. I've been really struggling with what to put on my channel. I'm not able to travel like I was. And I thought, shoot, I can't share travel videos, at least not very many. Because I do travel, but very short distances. I still have the box van, at least at this point. But I was thinking what I could share with you that you would enjoy. So it seems like on my channel, people really enjoy when I talk about my childhood or my past or things like that. And I thought I would share some of my earliest memories of my life. And maybe you'll enjoy it, maybe you won't. But I thought I'd start out with a couple stories of things that happened that I remember from young. I'm losing my memory, so I'm getting older, and so I don't remember everything, and I don't remember every detail, but things I do remember, I thought I might as well put it in here. I'm never going to write a book, I already know that, but this will be a record of the things that I do remember. I've shared a lot of the sad stuff on my channel before. I've shared my Nomadic Confessions series, which talks about childhood, my youth, and my adulthood, and even where I am today. So I thought I'll go back and share some stories of what I remembered, little bits and pieces, little short segments of things that I've recalled that I don't want to completely forget. So it'll be here for you to see. Maybe it'll be boring to you, I don't know. We'll find out. Anyhow, tonight I'll start with a story. So, yeah, I'm losing a little bit of my memory, and I get my head screwed up a little bit, but everything I tell you on this channel is true. It's all true stories of my life, and sometimes the details get a little bit mixed up because trying to remember back 50 years or 60 years is not easy, and I have good recall for past things, but not very good recall for recent things. I lose that kind of stuff. Anyhow, so one story I'll share is some things I still remember. How many people can remember back when they were younger than 3 years old? Or up to 5 years old? I still remember we were living in a cabin somewhere back in Virginia or something when I was a little baby. And I was probably 2 or 3 years old. And I remember living in this little house, whatever it was. And I had a crib. And my brother was always stealing my bottle. I remember the taste of the bottle, what was in the bottle to this day. I must have been pretty close to 2 years old. My brother would always take my bottle or my toys, whatever he did, even till I was probably old enough to fight back a little bit. And so I always told my mother, I remember what was in my bottle, Mom, but I don't know what it was. She said, I don't know, Dee. And she didn't call me Dee. She called me Maggie. So anyhow, yeah, not everybody knows that either. My mother and my dad called me Maggie because my middle name is Margaret. And my brother teased me and called me Maggie Nolia. And my brother-in-law picked up that later on and called me Maggie Nolia every now and then. Anyhow, so I do remember what was in my bottle, and I probably shared this already before, but it's probably been a while, and most people haven't watched all my videos. I recommend you go back and watch some of my earlier videos where I shared things like what I've been, things I remember from being young. So that's one thing I remember. So later, as an adult, when I was having my kids, they were babies. We used to drink Kool-Aid when we were growing up. Kool-Aid and water, mostly. And as I became an adult, I had my first child. I was pretty poor when I had my first child, and my husband was pretty much useless. So I couldn't afford to go out and buy juices and things. So I made him Kool Aid. And when I didn't have sugar, I put Karo syrup in it. One day I made grape Kool Aid with Karo syrup and tasted it. That, I remember that taste just like that. I knew what it was. That was what was in my bottle when I was a child, when I was very, very young, like maybe 2 years old. But that's the bottle my brother always stole from me. So it was grape Kool-Aid with Karo syrup, which was really bad for you, all that sugar and stuff. But you know, babies don't care. Of course, that could be part of why I have bad teeth today. Anyhow, so my mother, when I told her what I remembered, she said, "Yes, I did make grape Kool Aid with Karo syrup." So I knew I had good memory of those things. That was very, very long time ago. That's one memory. I have other memories. We used to play on the railroad tracks. We would, very young, had no supervision because both of my parents were working when we stayed. This was before we worked in the crops. So we would have little apartments and stuff in the daytime. Like even before I went to school, I would follow my brother along, and he went all over town. And I don't know where it was, but I know we used to walk down the railroad tracks and put pennies on the track and watch the trains go over the pennies and see what happened to them. We used to walk on the rungs, the wooden slats that go across the trestles, I guess they're called, and play on the tracks. And if we hear a train coming, we got off the tracks. You know, that is so dangerous, but we didn't have any supervision when we were very young. So my parents never paid for babysitters. Uh, I did, we did have some babysitters, but very few. And usually they just supervised us from a distance. You know, they check it in on us every now and then. You could never get away with that today, and I wouldn't want to, but we did then. I remember following my brother for what seemed like miles and miles, walking down the edge of the sidewalk, not the sidewalk, where the curb is to the street. We'll look for coins that people dropped along the gutters, and we'd pick up the coins and usually found money in the gutters, quite a bit actually, for those days. We used to go to the park and play in the water pools. They had like little wading pools and get wet and usually there's a water fountain or something. We spend all day running around all over town with nobody tell us not to do it. Once we started school, at least they didn't have to worry about us so much. But we got into a lot of trouble when we were very young. My brother was quite the instigator. He always led me and my sister, that was just younger than me, into all kinds of trouble. So we lived in, was like in Detroit, Michigan, I think, somewhere near there, because that's where my grandparents lived. I did get to be around them a little bit, my mother's parents, when I was very, very young, but later on we never saw them. We went back once every few years, if we're lucky, to see them. All we ever really had communication with them is my grandparents always sent us uh, a dollar or $5, depending on how old were, and a card for our birthdays and Christmas. And then, so we always had to send them a thank you letter. At least my mother taught us proper manners for that kind of thing. So we always send a thank you card and a note, I should say, not a card, a note. Back then you wrote letters. Didn't get on the phone. You didn't text people. You actually communicated with people. You have to think about what you had to say. So we wrote down letters and thanked them and told them what we got with their dollar or $2 or $5, whatever they sent. We were five kids. My grandparents had my mother's parents had five children of their own, and they all had at least two to five kids each. So they had a lot of grandkids. So sending money to each grandchild every year had to be very expensive. We knew it was very special when we received something. So anyhow, I loved my grandparents, and they were always good to us when we did see them. I think I'll share a little bit about my grandparents. My grandmother's name was Grace Finley, and my grandfather's name was Homer Finley. They were very religious, and they're very sweet and have very strong morals. And they always try to share that kind of thing with us kids. When we did visit, we always went to church with them. Um, my my grandparents had a home. It was a two-story home with a huge basement, and was in like Ferndale, which is a suburb of Detroit. And they had a attic. In the attic, my grandparents raised two of their grandchildren, and later on two more. So my uncle James had two kids, and then my uncle Ed had two kids, two boys. They because their mother died at a very young age. My grandparents raised those two boys, Doug and Dave, and so I got attached to my cousins because they were quite a bit older than me. So when we visited, we would play up in the attic. They each had one end of the attic, and in the attic they have walls all around and goes further into the attic. But the rooms are just kind of cut off at the sides, and they had walls. They had like little secret doors. So we used to crawl through those doors, and we crawl around in the attic beyond the rooms. We got in some trouble with that. But my grandmother had a laundry chute. I remember that. That's why I was kind of thrilled with this fifth wheel. I have a little laundry chute that goes down to the storage area under the RV. If I would use it for that. But I remember we were on the second floor, which was some of the other bedrooms. It was a pretty good sized house. And we used to love it when we took baths. We could throw our dirty clothes down the laundry chute. That was amazing. I never even knew there was such a thing until I went to my grandmother's house. So the laundry chute went all the way from the second floor down to the basement. That's where we picked up all the clothes and did the laundry downstairs in the basement. I remember in the basement she had a huge kitchen downstairs. She had a kitchen on the main floor too, but when family was around, she always used the big basement downstairs. And I remember she had a great big long table, and she would bake. She loved to bake. She made white coconut cake, and to this day, that is one of my very favorite cakes. I love white coconut cake. My grandmother was a very good cook. At least she was a good baker. And so in her backyard, they had a really nice backyard with an alley behind it. On the back gate was one of those arched trellis on the gate itself. And I remember all the flowers that flowed around the arch. And her yard always had a lot of flowers and pretty things back there. And those are really good memories of my grandparents. Like I said, I didn't get to spend a whole lot of time with my grandparents, but I really enjoyed them. And they were very good to us kids when we did come. There were five of us. They went through the Great Depression as when she was a kid, so I imagine it was pretty tough with five kids and their family. So anyhow, but I do have good good memories of my grandparents. And even my baby sister, when she finally came along, my grandmother loved little Annie. Annie was her buttermilk girl because she was the only one of the kids who would drink the buttermilk when my grandmother offered it. She loved buttermilk, and that was her buttermilk girl. And my baby sister was born on Valentine's Day, and so anyhow, a lot of people on my channel have met my sister on some of my live streams. So she's pretty special to me. She's almost 5 years younger than me. She came later on, after all of us kids were already around. I mean, she was born in, I was born in 52. She was born in 58. I guess I was almost 6 years older than her. So anyhow, so love the grandparents, and we would go up there, and when we did go up there, they would take us to our aunts and uncles and to visit, and sometimes would take us to my great grandma Susie's house, or maybe it wasn't my grandma Susie, but Uncle Vernon. I think it was my great grandma Susie and Uncle Vernon. Would go to their little farm, and my mother loved rhubarb pie, and they grew rhubarb on their farm, and they made rhubarb pie, and I never liked it, but my mother loved it. And I remember other things like ginger ale. I actually liked ginger ale and cream soda when I was a kid, but I don't like it now, either one of them. But I liked it when I was a kid. Of course, we didn't get that kind of thing very often, so it was kind of special. And we would go to my Aunt Annie. My baby sister was named after my Aunt Anne, which was my mother's baby sister. And we'd go to her house, and I remember she took us all out to the store one time when we went to visit. They bought every one of us kids gifts. I remember I got a little paint set. I think it was a velvet picture. In those days had a velvet picture. You get a little, what kind of paints they were, and we'd paint the different squares or circles or whatever lines in the pictures. And so anyhow, so we all got a little present from them, and that was pretty special. So I hope you enjoyed this little trip down memory lane, and I will be doing more videos like this in the future. I will put it in a series called Memory Lane, or Dee's Memories, or something like that. So watch for the playlist, and every time I put out a video like this, I will add that to the playlist. And please check out my playlist and see if there's something you might be interested in. I tell you guys every time I do a video almost where you can find information about me. Please, under this video is a description. Below the description, at the end of the first 2 or 3 lines, it says see more. Click on see more and scroll down beyond that, and it'll show you all the information you would be asking me over and over again in my comments. For if you really want to know how to get a hold of me or do something, look at that description and see what you can send me an email, or I have my different links in there, my Amazon store, my PayPal link. And I never ask for anything, people. Please don't think I would. I never ask for anything. If people want to do something for me, that's great. But I never expected it. I do appreciate it. So please don't feel like you need to do that. But if you want to send me a little note, send me an email, or you want to send me a little letter, send me a letter. I have all that information down there. So, and I get paid by YouTube for you watching the ads. So if you're playing this video and you letting the ads run, I make a little bit of tiny commission, and that helps me keep doing this. So thank you so much for all your help. Thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for liking the videos. Hit the thumbs up, please. and that's good for my analytics, and YouTube will push these videos out so other people can enjoy them. So, and make a comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you enjoy this kind of thing, if you want to hear more. Thank you. Have a great evening. Bye bye.